Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast for part 2 of my conversation with Andy Allan. If you've not already listened to part 1, it's the last episode, so just go back and check that one out. In this episode, we delve deep into various topics, including my own approach to abstinence from alcohol, touching on the social challenges of staying sober and the impact that appearing on Naked Attraction had on me and my dopamine that Naked Attraction had on me and my dopamine levels. Andy and I also discussed the critical role of nutrition for a healthy lifestyle, the concept of Andy's dynamic food list. We discussed the benefits of whole foods over processed ones and Andy's family's journey with food and how they were able to completely get rid of asthma and allergies. Other areas we touch on include fasting, a balanced approach to fitness, supplement use, psychedelics, parenting strategies, and the wonderful world of dating apps. Please enjoy this next part of my conversation with Andy Allan.
I was like counting, I'm like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months or whatever, which is common approach for people that are not drinking. And then the second time round, when I did like 3 months, I think, I decided not to count because I wanted to lessen. Well, yeah, I wanted to lessen its control over me. Like, I'm not even going to give it the control over me that I'm counting, because that's giving it energy, the addiction. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, I just don't drink, whatever. You know, it was, how long? Fuck no, I don't know. I just don't drink. That's kind of what I'm doing now. But so it'd be like 2 months or something. So it's like, yeah, it's like, I don't know whether it's, we'll just pick up from here. I don't know whether it's a good thing to count or not, you know, and like some people have said to, you know, I've been like interested in going to like, or anything like that, but it's hard because I don't see myself as an alcoholic. I just think alcohol has a bit of an effect over me.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, I just get addicted to stuff in general. So it's like, but I feel like the meetings would be good to go to just because going to any form of thing that involves kind of community and stuff is good for you. But I think going to something like that and sort of saying, I'm an alcoholic and I accept that I have no control over my addictions. This is the same saying it. I don't know if I like that because I'm like, well, I want the agency. I want to have the control over my addiction. Does that make sense? So, because the whole thing is like, you submit to God.
It's a religious. Oh, I didn't realize.
So the 12 steps and stuff, it's like, because Russell Brand's got a book out about it for ages, and I read that. And it's like, yeah, you submit to like, and it doesn't have to be like God, like the one with the beard, the Bible. It can be whatever, like consciousness, just the universe, whatever. And you sort of submit that you're powerless over your impulses, kind of thing, and you accept that and all the rest of it. But it's like, I don't want to be powerless. I want to be in control. Do you know what I mean? So, so yeah, but I don't know. But I've certainly like, drink is not for me. Just like it too much.
So when we talk about, God, the amount of stuff we've talked about, cold water exposure, diet, health, lifestyle, gym, everything we've talked about, and when you stick to that and you don't booze, like, and you sleep well, and you tape your mouth up like a weirdo, and that's going well, like, how good does that feel compared to, I know it's a bit of a daft question, but a hangover or a couple of days of, you know, a drink?
Oh, it's so much better.
And so what then? Like, I kind of knew that was going to be the answer. I clearly teed that up for that. So then what could be the temptation to get back to that? Is it purely the social aspect?
There's a few things. So the social aspect. So if I go to a party, family gathering or whatever, and sometimes you can be in a room full of people but still feel lonely.
Yeah.
And it's just an extra kind of hurdle to get over when you go or something like that. So last week we had a do at my mum's for King's coronation or whatever, and like most of the family were there and that. And I was a bit late because I was working on a podcast, so I was 2 hours late. Started at 3, got there at 5. I there with my non-alcoholic Guinnesses.
Yeah.
And pretty much it seemed like everyone was levered. Actually, it was about half the people that were there levered already.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I really struggled. I was kind of naffed off.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of like, for fuck's sake. Like, you're like, I've not even...
Yeah, like, why already?
Yeah.
Like, it's early in the day.
I've not been able to, like, just have a crack with some people while we're both sober until it starts to get... You know, because once it gets messy later on, fair enough.
You can be like, oh, they're doing the thing now. I've had my fun. I can get going.
At least I've had, a little bit of connection.
Yeah,
but it was like, I arrived and it was chaos.
Yeah.
And it was just like, there was shots and stuff. And I was kind of like... And there's a divide. So I feel, in that moment, I feel different to everyone else. I don't feel like part of the family. Does that make sense? So it's... that's the hardest bit. Because all I want to be, I just want to be with my family. I want to be part of the community. I want to be part of the tribe. And yeah, that's a big thing. It's like, that's the most difficult thing. And I think most of the times where I've fancied having a drink, it's like, I'm big into like discipline and, working out 5-6 days a week or whatever, and doing this and doing my meditation and stuff like that. But eventually they say that, I would say they, just experts when I say they, that what is it? Not motivation. Is it motivation? Oh, I can't remember if it's motivation. It's basically it's a depletable resource, like that. Willpower is depletable. So it's basically like it's a thing that they say. It's only like you can have willpower, but one day it'll run out.
Yeah,
and then it's like getting over those, and it's like knowing how to manage those things. Because when I'm in the zone and I'm like doing this and I'm being healthy or whatever, then it's cool. But it's in those lower moments where I'll feel like I just want to go a bit wild, or not necessarily even go wild. Just like I just want to be like everyone else.
Yeah,
I want to go to the pub and let loose and maybe chat up some lass because or something like that.
Or lad.
Or lad. I'll put that out there now. Not gay.
So you mentioned that it might be a low moment that makes you feel like that, but can you not also feel that from a high moment? So, for example, you've had like a really good crack. Let's say me and you went out with Phil, and we were just out for an afternoon, and everyone started sober. I feel like we can handle our booze to a certain degree, and then you've stayed on non-alcoholic stuff.
Uh-huh.
So you're feeling like you've got a buzz and a connection. Like, is that also?
That's also a trigger.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I was listening to a book that was talking about this. So you've got the low moments that can be a trigger, but you got also the high moments can be a trigger, because that's also it's that dopamine, it's that buzz.
It's like, why not? Like, I've done this long and I've waited for this moment. This moment's here. We're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Why would I leave this feeling?
Yeah.
But like,
and it's like, why not? Because let's say in that example, we could have had a great day and we're on this high because we've been doing whatever. We've been to watch the football, whatever it may be, and it's kind of like that dopamine level's high.
Yeah.
And then you go in, well, I want to extend it.
Yeah.
alcohol, you know, and that will extend it for a bit, but then you get the drop. I suppose the thing is having the strength to be like, usually once I get over the first couple of hours or first couple of drinks or whatever, then I'm pretty good. You know, like I can get through and then I can just be out and have non-alcoholic beers and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a challenge because, and as well with the whole like dating thing, you know, when you're dating, most people don't want to get with someone that might have an issue with alcohol. You know, so it's not the sort of thing that you kind of want to own it, because I see it as a strength. Yeah, because I've been unfortunately blessed, cursed with this thing of kind of not being able to control my alcohol when I drink it. Yeah, and so therefore I've had to.
So you've had to own it.
I've had to adapt and learn how to not drink and stuff, given all the societal pressures and stuff. So I see it as a strength. But some people can just see like, oh, red flag. I must be a fucking right there.
Well, what I would say is my experience of you not drinking at Phil's wedding. You know, me and you. Well, put it this way. Firstly, you got me onto the cold showers. Therefore, I got onto Wim Hof. It eventually got me to unofficially break a world record, and I hope it will enable me to actually get an official world record. But even the cold showers, you know, because of that conversation, you've introduced me and Katie to it, which I don't think at this point, I can't see myself probably have been introduced to it. Secondly, not just from a lifestyle perspective, but that night, I remember, you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Yeah.
I absolutely, and this is our musical influence as well, and your absolute fantastic ability at rhythm with the drums and everything. But you playing the drums on my chest to whatever it was, the Killers, Oasis, whatever it might have been during the night band was you know, like a highlight for me, who was wasted, like having a great time, and you were there like doing all this like pissing around. I was just like, I said afterwards to like many family members, I was like, Jess wasn't drinking and he was absolute quality, you know, like he proper, you know, was one of the highlights of my night kind of thing. And you can't always be the highlight of someone's night, can you? You know.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, that kind of proved to me that you know, if you can get yourself in the zone and you don't rely on boozing too much, then you can.
Yeah, and the buzz is kind of all the better.
Yeah,
because for me to get on the dance floor when I'm sober takes cojones. It takes balls. Like it really does. It's difficult, but the buzz is even greater.
Is it? Yeah.
Once I get over that, it's like
an immediate fear.
Yeah, I've got over a fear there, and then that night was great. Like I think that's probably one of my favorite sober nights because the band were amazing, and it was just like as once I'd kind of got that off my shoulder that, you know, I'm sober, it was just like then I just turned into I was like a kid on the dance floor, like. Hair was all crazy because I didn't like a bun. I think it like went everywhere. Yeah, and it was just like, well, what's the one stimulus I've got? I've got family, and friends. Obviously, I've got family and I've got music. Yeah, okay, I'm drumming on Andy's chest.
But I think also for those that might listen to the podcast, and same for you, is even if you told me that I genuinely believe that apart from the conversation we had earlier in the day, I think that I would never have known that you weren't drinking. So if you were on that dance floor and I'm there messing around, and I've tried it when I've been sober or not as drunk as I would like to be to go on the dance floor. It's crazy just how much no one's actually interested in you. You know, like just get on with it. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to have that attitude with all aspects of life, you know. But
no one cares. They're all in their own moment.
Yeah,
and especially when they're pissed. Even when they're pissed, like they're definitely not going to.
Yeah, not even when they're pissed. Especially when they're pissed, they don't care. You know that you'll go in and then they'll zone out and in and out, and so
you can't fake it though when you're sober. That's one thing.
Yeah, of course you do.
So like, there's not because that's the other thing where like if you're having a shit night, sometimes I'll have a drink, it'll loosen me up, it'll kind of make it better. So I've also had those nights where I've gone out and I've been sober, a bit like the other week, when I turned up and actually had a nice night in the end, but it wasn't amazing.
No,
because I got there and most of my family were livid.
Yeah.
So there's no like connection. So yeah, but in general, like I do love it. I'm proud of myself for being able to do it because it is fucking lonely. Because no one else does it in my family.
I'm very proud of you, mate, because I know that it does alienate you to some degree, but I love that you've managed to recognise it in an early stage. You've said that you don't need to go to Alcoholic Anonymous. I'm really struggling here. Let's cut that bit. Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
I know you haven't needed to go there because you're not an alcoholic, but you've just got a pretty shit relationship with booze when you do sort of like get on it. But a lot of people in your shoes would just kind of be like, well, what's the alternative? And probably head down a dark path. Or they try a little bit of something every now and again, which might be, I don't know, a bit of the gym, bit of walking, whatever it might be. I don't see it being such a bad thing that you've got such a wide variety. You have a huge holistic approach. And I don't think for a second that you believe that, you need to do every single one of them or that any one of them is the key. But the fact that you do...
No, they're all stacked on top.
They're stacked on top of each other, exactly, yeah. And so and even introducing a new one, whether it's gonna be incredibly helpful or not, it just backs up that that whole thing that what you're trying to achieve, which is leading a decent life without the stimulus of the drug, essentially.
Yeah. But it's the stimulus of the other buzz that we're talking about, which is, dopamine, got like the well-being and stuff.
I get a feeling we're going to, in the future, a lot of conversations over dopamine specifically. I'm interested already.
Yeah, it's amazing. And, one of the things that I love now is, having had, like down moments and bits of depression or whatever, I like understanding it. Understand the mechanism. I feel like I've got more power over it.
Yeah.
Like, I can notice, I feel like we're just talking about me now, but I might as well talk about it. I went on Naked Attraction, as you know.
Well, I was going to bring this up anyway, so go for it.
So, and that was aired last Wednesday on Channel 4, and I watched it back with one of my friends and his missus, who...
So, was this the first time you were watching it?
First time I was watching it.
With a friend and his missus?
Yeah. And they're like he's like one of my best mates. Yeah. But I'd kept it a secret, not that I've been on the show, but how far I got. So he didn't know. Neither of them knew. We sat there and watched it. And the dopamine spike was, because I knew what was going on. Like, not in the moment I was watching it, I wasn't just thinking, oh, dopamine, but like just afterwards reflecting on how I felt and stuff, there was a hell of a buzz. Kind of just like weird seeing yourself on telly. And thankfully, other than coming across a bit camp, I felt like I came across quite well. So it was kind of like, I was watching it and I was like, it was like watching, I felt like I was watching Penalties. I had my cap out in my mouth like this.
Worried about what?
Because I just didn't know what was going to come up next. It's like, I don't know, is it going to be a really unflattering angle? Or is it going to be me saying something stupid? Is it going to be me going bing, bing, bing and look like a dickhead? But anyways, and it was like, and like the buzz was kind of nice. I had a headache because it was obviously like the chemicals, I think it must have been the dopamine release. And then afterwards, it's like a school night. And I could feel myself that's the addictive side of me, where it's like, I want more, more. So then I'm on like Instagram. I'm like, does anyone message me? And a few people had messaged me, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more. I wanted more attention. Like, why is like, and then I was able to clock myself, because in the past I'd have gone, well, I'm going to have some beers to sort of like numb it / carry the buzz or whatever. And obviously this big spike. Slept okay-ish, but didn't sleep great because I could feel this adrenaline still in my body. And next day I felt like shit. I felt awful. And then I'm like, back to the phone. Why does anyone message me? And then I found myself like spiraling into this like kind of like constant, just seeking out little dopamine spikes. And so I went really down because of that big spike. Went right under, and I had a few tough days of just kind of like, well, now what? Oh, great, you got your kit off on telly. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like that. That was my medal going on the telly or whatever. And then I'm like, well, now what? Oh, well done. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even when people did message me, like some people, oh, nice one, mate. And it's lovely that people said that. I'm like, so what? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're kind of like. But then I didn't like the praise, even though I wanted the attention. I didn't like the praise because I was like, well, I've not cured cancer. I've not done something like worthwhile. It's kind of like, it's just a bit like. And then a few people said to me, oh, so you're gonna go on Love Island, or you're gonna go on like something else. And I was kind of like, and I guess this is the trap where you go, oh yeah, I suppose I could do that. That's how I get that. But that's how I get the buzz, is go on telly again. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm done with that. Like, that was fun and great and
story one day.
Yeah, but I've done that now. Next, like, not in terms of what's next, but I want to do something different, and I want to do this podcast. Like, do you know what I mean? So if I'm getting attention, I want it for having open, honest, and hopefully interesting and vulnerable conversations, and trying to just like take it up a notch that way and get attention in that way, which is more holistic. I know we keep saying holistic, but it's like, something that I'm working hard at to work on this podcast and try and have good conversations. Then if I get a bit of attention that way, at least it's not just getting my kit off.
I think that explanation is really honest. Like it's really good to hear a very honest approach from someone who's just experienced like
me,
an enhanced level of fame compared to normal.
Yes.
And me and Katie watched it, and we'd been excited about watching it for a while. And yeah, you did come across great, and you looked really good. I was a bit jealous when Katie said that you're actually a good-looking guy and stuff. But you came across really well. But it's nice to see that the stuff that you've learned, these building blocks of all the stuff that you've done, and this, like, the conversation we've had about dopamine, which really we should have some knowledge on before we actually start giving it credit. But it totally makes sense that you would recognise that it's these little spikes that are just shit for you. The likes, chasing it.
So I deleted all my apps.
Yeah, and it doesn't
because I had to fill it back up.
Yeah.
So at the end of the weekend, I deleted all my apps, and then I went out walking, tidied the house,
and had a much better time.
Yeah. Like, again, I'm trying to fill up my trough.
Yeah.
With nice activities that aren't looking. And but yeah, it's a constant thing with if you, I think a lot of people will be addicted to the phones or whatever, but some people are more susceptible. There's a woman who wrote this book on dopamine called Dopamine Nation. She's called Andy Allan. I'll link the book in the show notes. And she said, like, if you're struggling to understand like what it's like for someone with addiction, it's like, so let's say you've got an itch on your arm. That's maybe like a scab or something you shouldn't itch.
Yeah.
So your prefrontal cortex, your forebrain will go, I'm not going to itch that. Even though it's itching, if I itch it, it'll bleed. Yeah, it'll get worse. But what happens when you go to sleep? or you're distracted, most of the time you itch it. Or, if you've got mozzie bites in the night or whatever, even though it's bad for you or whatever. And that was her explaining what it's like to have an addiction.
So when you at any point your focus comes away from it,
and there you go.
It comes in.
Then you can I'll get pissed or not even get pissed, or I'll, even in the past where I've done experiments with moderation, I'd with moderation, I would try maybe I'll have pint then water or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd have a good night. I'd only have 5 pints of water, and I'd feel okay the next day. Focused.
Yes.
And maybe try it again. But then what happens is, well, I've done that twice now. The whole water thing or whatever. But it wasn't too bad. Maybe I'm okay.
Yeah.
So then I don't have the water.
Yeah.
And the next minute I've had 10 pints.
Basically, you've got to assume that we're to do it well or be successful with it, you've got to assume you're an idiot. You've just got to be like, no, I'll never learn, so therefore stick to this every time, like this guidebook of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Don't deviate from it. Don't think you can outsmart it. Don't think that you've overcome it.
Yeah,
just stick to it. Basically,
that's why. Sometimes I've gone on social media and said I'm an addict. I did it when I was drunk once.
Yeah,
and it was actually a real low point. It was horrible. Well, I did it because I wanted to be kind of a cry for help, but it's also don't let me think otherwise.
Yeah,
remind me.
Yeah,
yeah. But there's a lot of ego. There's a lot of letting go of your ego there, because of what I don't like. Because then you go, you don't want someone turn around saying, your dad or someone oh, should you be doing that? Then you go, I'm gonna fucking do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's getting that balance. But we talked a lot about alcohol. So
no, we said at the start of the podcast before it even started, ask some questions back. I'm happy that.
Yeah, as long as
because I'm going to be honest, I have not yet had to deal with alcoholism in my life, directly, either myself or anyone else. Likewise with depression as such. But I have a lot of interest in it because it is so pertinent to what a lot of people are going through. So I do kind of use you as a marker a little bit as what someone can do, can achieve, can also slip back into. I've heard some stories about your earlier days about how loose you got with alcohol and stuff, it's eye opening what it can do to people. So I definitely appreciate you mentioning all this stuff and opening up. Yeah.
Well, it's one of those, isn't it? It's
I'm your cousin.
Yeah.
It's not about the point.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But also, it's it's good that I'm kind of, don't get me wrong here. I'm kind of shit. I'm opening up a lot about this, but if it can help someone else, do you know what I mean? If someone else is going through it or whatever, or might have this I feel like I'm not an alcoholic, but I've kind of got this weird thing.
At some point, do I need to admit something that I don't feel like I'm ready?
Yeah, then you're not alone.
Yeah,
and there's lots of people going through it. So I think opening up is important, and for people being able to get through it.
So you're right. Here.
Right, let's talk nutrition.
So we're still bloody going.
Yeah, let's fly through these because we've been going quite.
Fly through them. Nutrition's my baby.
What's the dynamic food list?
Okay, right. So the dynamic food list. Again, I'll take it back a few steps before I get to this. God, for the third or fourth time, I'm going to credit Matty Green at Cumbria Strength. So I remember walking out of the gym one morning, not late morning, it was probably nearly 7 o'clock after a morning session. And I remember Matty chatting to another gym member about fat being good for you. And it was linked to the keto diet. And I knew nothing about it. I'd been going to the gym for maybe a couple of years, but I was never into diet at all. And I overheard this, and I was like, "What? I got what? Fat? Good for you? What are you on about? You know?" And he was like, "No, seriously, like, you know," and kind of explained it for maybe 5 minutes or so. And he basically said, "Listen to Joe Rogan and Chris Kresser."
All right.
So I listened to it during one lunchtime walk at work. Well, you know, it's a good couple of hour podcast, and it was really eye opening for me. Like, not necessarily for everybody. Maybe some people feel like they have a good grasp on it. Probably do by now. What I learned in that podcast was just how much food influenced chronic illness, and just what chronic illness was in general. And there was loads of percentages put on it about, you know, typically related to the US, you know, 75% of the US have this, and, you know, 40% have this, and whatever. And I was like, oh my God, wow, we're fucked, basically. And then, you know, there was a little bit in there about, what if we did this and if we did that? So I ended up buying Chris Kresser's book, which was very kind of specific about what foods are good for you and what foods aren't, which is perfect for me because I thought for a lot of years that me and Katie and the kids were, we, you know, weren't great with our diet, but when we said, oh, let's eat healthy for the next week or whatever, we thought we were eating healthy. Actually, often we weren't. And I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this if they've had any sort of light bulb moments. But as I was reading this book, and then I continued to, you know, Google search and start going on stuff like PubMed, which is, you know, where you actually find sort of scientific studies on certain food groups and whatever else. Other doctors, well, not a doctor, but other sources like Mark Hyman, Rhonda Patrick, people like that. And you kind of get, you know, led down the path, especially on social media. You kind of like, oh, well, you know, this person agrees with this person. And it kind of is a self-fulfilling prophecy about this idea of what is healthy food-wise. So what was really important to me, because I do feel like I'm a level-headed guy, yet a guy who has a pretty bad ability to retain information, is I would read this on a night time and I'd be like, oh my God, so, right, we should avoid that. Or, oh, right, so dark chocolate, 85% is good for you, you know, or like as benefits or whatever it might be. And I was like telling my wife this, and she was like, all right, okay, cool, I'll go on. And eventually, being a bit of a data geek, I was like, I need to actually retain this information because I'm going to forget this, you know. So what I decided to do was I made a list, which eventually got called the Dynamic Food List. And the list was lots of food groups. So it might be condiments, fruit, veg, meats, spices, whatever it might be. And a list of all of the foods that come within them. So dairy would have milk and cream and cheese and whatever else. And then I would score it between -5 for the worst food you could possibly eat, which would be stuff like Coca-Cola and just sugar outright, donuts, energy drinks, stuff like that, to +5 for the most healthy foods you could eat, like I think there's in there stuff like mussels, organ meats. I think broccoli and stuff like that was sort of a 4, so really high up.
Mussels.
Yeah, right. So shellfish are really, really high in that. So I created this list, and that was it. I just created it, and I was like, right, that'll do me. You know, I just, as I've explained at the start of this podcast, I am a jack of all trades. I'm not an expert. I'm never going to go and do, contrary to my usual approach, I'm not going to go and do a degree in it. And I was like, I need to know this information. It's so important, but I need to make it simple for me. And I also need to make it so that at some point in the future, years down the line, I can look back at this list, and although in 5 years' time, I won't remember what the reason was behind that score. I will know that at the time I made the score, that it was with the best intentions and with the best knowledge that I had, whether that was research on with people that I rely on or PubMed and stuff like that. So I created this list, dynamic food list, and what happened was people at work said to me, because they knew that I was eating sort of very healthy, always turning down all the typical biscuits and all that shit that you get at work. And I was like, well, yeah, I kind of prescribe to this. 80% of the time I eat foods that are 3+, maybe 2+ in terms of the scoring. And yeah, like I'll only ever 20% of the time I'll eat like, below sort of below -2 or something like that. Because you've got to live a life, basically. And anyway, these guys are like, oh, you should, make a Facebook page or whatever. So I made a Facebook page, right? And the idea with it was that it was totally honest from a guy who had no agenda, no vegan view, although I was probably leaning towards paleo because that kind of made sense. I was never against anyone saying, no, that doesn't work, So the idea was with the dynamic food list was anyone can contribute to the next version of it and sort of say, hang on, you've scored whatever, bananas a 2, but actually they've got this, and this in them. The downsides are only this, so therefore it should be a 4. And then I would look at the weight of the evidence and decide whether I would increase it or not, or keep it as it was, or increase it only a little bit, or whatever.
It's a really interesting approach.
Yeah,
it's very novel, and it's like open source.
Yeah. People would bring it to my attention.
Love it.
So it was totally open. Anyway, I got to version 3, which the Facebook page was open for like a year, and very interestingly, we're going to go back to that subject that me and you don't know much about, dopamine hits.
Okay.
So basically what happened was it really got some traction and people were very interested. I had a lot of people come to me about chronic illnesses they had, and I'm no expert, like I said, absolutely no expert. Chronic illnesses they had. I had people come to me with depression and like really opening up to me, and it was at that point, it was really apparent how important this stuff is.
Yeah.
It reinforced everything that I was trying to do. But I found myself agonizing over creating a post that was not just attractive to someone looking at it, like, hey guys, here's some information. Maybe instead of trying sunflower oil, you should try olive oil. Now, that took me 5 seconds to say, but to write that in a post and make sure that I've got all the data and that it's accurate and that I can't be scrutinized for what I'm doing takes a long time. And you sit on it and you wonder. And so I'd then post it, and sometimes you'd get a lot of interaction, and then sometimes you'd get no interaction, and you'd be like questioning where it's at, where's that void to give me, and you would get a few likes and you'd be like, yeah, sweet, exactly what you said. So basically what it resulted in was me coming off social media altogether. I do have a LinkedIn, I do have Instagram. I don't use Instagram except just to check a couple of things out if I need to. Don't really go on LinkedIn hardly at all.
Was that because you were getting addicted to the response?
Yeah. I was getting addicted to the response.
See the rejection,
and it wasn't just. I didn't just realize it in that moment because of my interest in well-being and health and well-being. I was acutely aware of what social media does to you. So it wasn't like all of a sudden I was like, I'm feeling like this. I was like started to become aware of what I might start feeling, and then I did start feeling that. So I basically took it off. But before I took it off, I was doing stuff like presentations at like BAE. So I went into BAE. I took a holiday at work to go unpaid to do a presentation on the dynamic food list at BAE because I just had a huge passion to let people know what I was aware of, thinking even if I inspire 2 or 3 people about, simple stuff like don't use sunflower oil, use olive oil or coconut oil or whatever, then that's going to do you a world of good. Like you're probably going to prevent the chance of cancer or whatever it might be, some chronic disease, or decrease the risk quite a lot. So right now I sit here and I'm thinking you might start probing me on, well, what about meat? What about this? What about that? What about that? But all I know is this. When I was fully invested in it 4 or 5 years ago, I created that list. I also gave it 3 iterations where I let people feed in. And even if that list is 85% accurate in terms of scoring, that is going to give me and my family a huge advantage to be healthy and have good well-being compared to the typical Western diet, and that's why I don't look at vegan. Although I do think I would question the vegan diet, I would question the vegetarian diet. I don't have anything against people doing that. I guess the only time I do have an issue with it is if their views are being forced on someone. Only like if my view of the dynamic food list was forced on people, But I think anyone who's thinking outside the box from the typical Western diet are going to do themselves some good. I would just say to people, make sure you're open and honest and ready for a bit of conflict and work out what that conflict means for you against what your beliefs already are.
It's got to be the most vicious is the correct word, but in terms of controversial area to talk about on social.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah,
because there is so many different things, and obviously we've sort of touched on it, but we can talk about it. I was vegan.
Yeah.
And I think the last time we spoke about it, I said I was eating meat at the weekends. I'm eating more meat than ever.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
And in general, I feel better. And the reason I did it was, I still, in an ideal world, like I think the vegan thing's great. I think the care for the animals and stuff like that, I still kind of believe in that.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'm just selfish. I'm more selfish now, and I'm thinking more about myself and more about. I've come away from feeling guilty about being alive because with like how things have developed with like them, climate change and the population of the earth and stuff like that. You start to feel bad about being alive.
Yeah.
And it's like, that must be messing us up.
Yeah.
And it's like, what about the joy of just being alive and eating good food and not feeling guilty if you didn't put all your beans tins in the recycling or whatever. Low sugar beans probably. But yeah, and so now I'm just kind of like, and as well, I think because of the alcohol thing as well, it's kind of like, I was not drinking or I was not having alcohol, I was doing this and like all these things. Like, I just want to enjoy some stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, so next week we're doing the barbecue and street at yours. I will come and I won't drink.
Yeah.
But I can have a burger now.
Yeah.
So I've got that little bit of connection.
Yeah, you feel like
I've got my qualm sausages or whatever. Like it does help, like, and I've noticed a difference where I can go to a barbecue and just have a burger and just kind of be like everyone else, which I talk about a lot. And what I wanted to get away from was I realized how reliant I was on processed food.
Yeah.
For protein, so like tofu and stuff like that. And it was like, well. Because I started lifting and I was like, oh, wow, I really need to hit like more protein. And then I was like, well, what? I'm going to eat bags of tofu and nuts and stuff. And it was kind of like, all right, steak, it has like 40 grams of protein and or whatever. So that's why I changed my mind on it. It's not great for the world if everyone's eating steak for breakfast. but it's probably good for you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think there's moral aspects to think about. I think there's very sustainable approaches to meat farming, which are going to take time, and it looks like the wave is against meat because there's such a foothold in sort of the vegan approach or even some form of that. But again, like I say, my view is that it's all about balance. I've got a friend who is keen on the carnivore diet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't doubt for a second that the carnivore diet can absolutely like smash it for some people, performance-wise, or getting rid of ailments or whatever it might be. But I just don't. I just think everything's balanced.
Have you not noticed there's a pattern though with most of these things? So, like, if you've done a whole foods diet and let's say vegan, and that really, because actually when I first went vegan and I was doing whole foods, it really worked for me. I seen a load of benefits. My skin got better. That's probably the biggest one. Like I noticed, I used to always have blackheads, and it totally cleared up.
Yeah.
But then they started introducing the burgers and stuff. And I was like, oh wow, that's amazing! I can eat a chicken burger, but I'm not killing an animal, and it's healthy.
Yeah.
And I felt good about it. But then over time, you're like, I'm just eating processed stuff. But I feel like with the carnivore diet and things like the whole foods diet and keto, the one thing you've got in common is they're all getting rid of processed food.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's no clearer way to say it than eat like your ancestors did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even if you believe that your ancestors never ate meat, if you believe that, then that's fine. I personally don't, but that will certainly lead you to not eating processed shit.
Exactly.
So I think just move away from that idea in total. But in terms of the dynamic food list, again, I'll send you a link. And I don't have a web page, but I can send you whatever the PDF or and I'll send you the most recent version. And we still have it. We don't need to use it because we have a very good idea now.
Got it in your head.
Yeah, it's in our heads now, which took time, but we have it inside one of our cupboard doors, and every now and again we'll open it up, and and if nothing else, sometimes you open it up and the kids will be like, oh, so whatever, potatoes, whatever, what are they? And you'd be like, well, open up the cupboard, and they go and have a look, and then we can have a conversation over it. So it helps with that family discussion and nurturing, the learning around that. So yeah.
Have you got a particular? So if you had to eat one food, you got one food that you seem to respond to really well.
Do you know? There's one food I wish I ate loads. And I just hate the taste of it. But we try our best to get it into us. Like liver and organ meat.
Organ meat.
There's no doubt at all that if you had to live off one food, organ meats is it.
Yeah.
So what we do, because we hate the taste of it, is we blend it up. We stick it. We put it in our bone broth. And then also we cook it and blend it up and stick it in like bolognese and stuff. So it's pretty much.
I've been wanting to get into
it's undetectable. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get into organ meats. I just haven't. But see do you know what I noticed recently was a food that I respond really well to is venison.
All right. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
I've always liked it, and I seem to feel great the next day.
Right.
And then I was thinking, well, it's probably, if my ancestors were in general kind of British Isles, Scotland, whatever, Northern Europe, probably going to be the most likely protein source would have been deer. Yeah. You think about it, more so than cows.
Well, maybe cows.
But it could be total placebo.
Yeah.
But I think as well,
Well, I mean, does a placebo matter if you're
exactly.
if it's having
if it works, it works.
Yeah.
But but it helps. I really like it as well. So, yeah. So
I'm glad we went gentle on that subject. Yeah, we met in the middle. We never went too deep, so that I had to explain every decision that I've ever made food wise. But I'm glad that I explained how. But let me just really get this point across. When I introduced the dynamic food list, and it's not the dynamic food list that did it; it's just the food within that we started leaning ourselves towards. I've had asthma all my life. My two oldest children, I've got 3 kids. My 2 oldest children who were born or were living at the time of the introduction of the dynamic food list both had asthma. I had hay fever all my life, to the point that like I was even having a hay fever tablet at at Christmas time because it's that sensitive. And none of us have asthma. None of us have hay fever. It's all totally gone. And interestingly, when I decided to do this stuff, I never thought, oh, I'm going to do this to get rid of that stuff. I was aware it might have an effect, but it just went. It just totally went. And if that's not a signal enough to carry on with it, to see my children who were like needing inhalers and getting out of breath and stuff, and coughing at night, like child asthma often sort of brings itself up in coughing. It's gone, totally gone. None of them have got asthma. We went back to the asthma nurse. This was a couple of years ago now, and we took the kids. And we're like, yeah, they don't have asthma anymore. But go and test them, and they tested them. And we're like, oh yeah, like breathing's brilliant, and so they don't cough at night. No, nothing. They were like, right. They were kind of lost for words, and I obviously was very proud of what we'd achieved. So I outright said to them, I think it's to do with the fact that, we have introduced this kind of eating and avoiding this food. And what really surprised me and frustrated me at the same time was the nurse said, really? Oh, wow, that's weird, isn't it? And I was like, well, out of everybody here, you should know more than anyone that food, lifestyle, whatever it is, should have a direct impact on this stuff. But instead, the approach is, let's give that kid another inhaler.
Food is medicine.
Food is medicine. Food is the ultimate medicine. Yeah. A lifestyle. Yeah. Medicine.
Such a good point.
Yeah. It was frustrating, but how can you be pissed off with them because that's all they've learned? Even as an asthma nurse, the system enables, forces them to only have one way of thinking, which is why the most successful businesses and stuff think outside the box.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it reminded me while we're on that is, I don't know if we've spoken about this, but I was on, have you heard of omeprazole?
No, I don't think so.
So omeprazole is what they give you if you go to the doctors with acid reflux or indigestion. So when I was about 20, maybe 19, 20, I kept on getting this acidic, lying down.
Yeah, like indigestion time.
Yeah, and it was awful. And I went to the doctors and they said, oh, we'll try these omeprazole. And it's basically it's just a form of, I guess it like stops the release of stomach acid or something like that, or soaks it up, who knows, however it does it.
Yeah.
And I guess balances the alkalinity, the pH of your stomach. So I started taking them, and actually changed my life because I was having a real tough time of it, and it was weird, I couldn't eat this was before the drugs. I'd eaten certain fruits and I get like an itchy face and stuff.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah.
And raw stuff, so raw carrots and stuff, I guess because the acidity in it used to irritate me. I started taking these things and then I could start eating fruits and stuff again. It changed my life, and I was really grateful just to have something. But what I didn't probably realize at the time was, well, are you drinking? Diet Cokes and stuff like that, and processed food? Hell yeah. I was like 19 years old, of course I was. And I went, even, when I went traveling, I had like 4 months supply at any one time in my bag of this stuff because I couldn't live without it. I used to panic if I didn't have it because I'd get indigestion, I couldn't sleep. And about 10 years, I was having those things. And then after I just quit drinking and stuff, I was like just determined to be like, I really don't want to be taking these. And at the time, I'll say now, actually, I was on antidepressants and I was on beta blockers. So blood pressure thing and antidepressant. And I was just like, I'm coming off them all. That's my mission. So I didn't even tell the doctor. I just did it. I wouldn't ever recommend that. No. Don't do it about it. But this is what I did. And I was like, I started to wean myself off all these various things, and I did research and looked at things that I could do, holistic approaches, and then I started cutting out the processed food, and then I started having like ginger tea and stuff in the morning and whatever. And anyways, so I don't have any drugs anymore. So I haven't been totally just stopped taking those indigestion things and. Absolutely fine. So it's a similar kind of story that you have the control.
Yeah.
So like, if anyone's listening and they have any of these ailments or whatever, consider your diet and stop putting crap in your system.
Yeah.
And I think, it's good to know, isn't it?
Here.
Fasting. I know you don't know much about fasting. I think you said you're not really into too much about it.
Yeah.
But you train in the mornings, like me.
Yeah.
Do you eat before?
Well, so today, for example, I had.
Early, though.
I was up at 5 o'clock, went for a walk, and then I had like 3 hours to burn.
Yeah.
So I had my breakfast because I wanted to feel quite well for you lot rest.
What's breakfast?
So today was overnight oats with nuts and manuka honey. That is what I would describe as our cereal. So that's like
it's kind of sweet. Yeah,
it's almost a bit of a treat. But there's there's a lot of benefits to it. There's no gluten in oats. And manuka honey. And exactly. So that's like a bit of a treat. Usually we cook a breakfast for the family. Most days,
like a fry up without the crap.
Well, I mean, it depends what you describe as without the crap.
So, like hash browns.
No hash browns. I mean, I would guess that a couple of times a week we have, or maybe three times a week we have like scrambled eggs with sausage. But again, like the sausage is like 90 to 95% meat rather than all the shit.
Do you go to butchers or?
So we used to go to the butchers, but they don't do gluten-free in the butchers, and my wife is trying to avoid gluten-free. So, we find at like Booth supermarket, they do like 95% gluten-free. Bacon, we'll chuck that in there, but we won't do like a bacon, egg, sausage, hash, whatever. We won't do a big breakfast every time. We'll just mix up what that breakfast is. So it'll typically be like sausage, egg, and a bit of like seeded toast or something. And then next time it'll be like salmon and egg and whatever. And then today for the kids was like, cheesy omelets, for example, just like lots of organic eggs, basically.
Would you class bacon as processed?
No, I don't class.
It's not a loaded question. I'm just
no. I don't. We don't buy cheap though. We buy good stuff. That is also outdoor bred. So it's like really important to us as much as we can, and it's not. Price has to come into it. You can't just absolutely burst the bank just to have your bacon sarnie. You know what I mean? But we go for outdoor bread. We go for organic where we can, which is probably quite rare these days. When I was right into it, I was like, oh my God, it has to be organic. We can't possibly put any other meat in our mouths. And that's not the case at all now. We'll go outdoor bread. Sometimes, something not quite as strict as that. But no, I would certainly not class it as, if it's, what do they call it? Dry cured or, I'm happy with that.
I suppose it's
I avoid
yeah.
the typical,
It's from the co-op.
16 rashers in a pack or whatever that's like £2.
Yeah.
That we will never go for that kind of thing.
But I suppose it's what additives are in it. If it's got like, what is it, like emulsifiers and stuff like that.
Well, it's the same thing as everything. I turn the packet over and look at ingredients, and if it's not really simple, then I'm very uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'll never have something that's got shite in it, but again, it's the 80-20 rule. 80-20. So yeah, I'll look at the back of the packet. If I can pretty much understand what's on it, then I'm good to go.
There's an interesting documentary years ago, and at the end of it, they said, we invite you to take the so-and-so challenge. It was the documentary, it was called that. Like, it was one of the first ones that started talking about sugar and stuff and additives. Anyways, and it was basically, they were like, go 30 days, and you have to only eat foods that have ingredients in that you can pronounce.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, that's quite a good
Yeah.
I can't pronounce it. It's not probably good.
Well, when I did my presentation that I put together for BAE, and I presented to a couple of like groups of people, one of the things was I put up an ingredients list, and it had about 50 ingredients, most of which, probably 75% you won't be able to pronounce or at least understand what they are. And I can't remember what the product was. I think it was something like Cadbury's like Magic Rolls or something like that. Yeah. So these like chocolatey, all sorts of stuff in it. 50 ingredients in one thing. And then the next slide was a picture of a tomato, and then the ingredients list was tomato. And it's like, that is what you should do. Yeah. Something that has not even 50, but like 5. Maybe question anything that's got over 5 ingredients in. Really,
that's good rule.
Like that's not obviously like a standard or anything. But if I see a long ingredients list, my missus knows that she's in for a bit of a wait while I read through it. And I mean, like I say, sometimes I'll just be like, yeah, go on, chuck it in. But a lot of the time I'll be like, look at all that, stick it back.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to be. I'll never look at salt and sugar levels and all that kind of stuff. I'm not into macros and whatever else it might be. I'm just interested in what's in it altogether.
Yeah.
Because I guess if you don't trust a couple of ingredients in it, you're probably onto something that you want to chuck back on the shelf.
Yeah.
So
awesome. I want to talk to you about protein. I know you're not like big on macros, but one of the things I struggle with at the moment is trying to figure out what's the best approach. Do I do 50 grams, wait 3 hours, 50 grams, wait 3 hours, 50 grams, try and aim for like 200 a day in terms of protein. I'm fairly certain the whole 20 grams every hour isn't a good approach because you want to leave those spaces. Do you have a sort of set thing that you go for? Or do you just kind of, what's your approach, if any?
So you're dead right. Don't have an approach with macros necessarily. I roughly know what I probably need to do. I listen to my body a little bit, but this is the approach I take. So I have a protein powder, which you won't be surprised to know only has about 4 ingredients in it.
Which one do you use?
Basically, it's a hydrolyzed beef protein, and it's like high percentage of that. And then there's just a couple of, I think it's cacao powder, and then like maybe 2 other little small bits of them, bits of stuff like sweetener or something like that. So I have that, and basically my approach is this: especially if I work out in the morning and I've done it fasted, I go straight into, as I've explained, like sausage and eggs and whatever, So like I feel like I'm getting the protein in I need. If I work out, let's say, mid-morning or like late afternoon, and then I know I'm not having my tea till later on, then that's when I'll have a protein shake. So I don't just like taking protein shakes like willy-nilly, and I'm like protein shake and then food or whatever. My approach is try and do it all with food, but also I'm not asked at all about becoming big and muscly. I sometimes consider that maybe I could get more gains if like for weight and stuff, for putting on, for maybe squatting heavier. But really, whenever I think about this stuff and think, oh, should I get into it more? Should I shovel food into my mouth? I think for what I want to do, those three things that I said, benefit my family, overall well-being and health. And then, there's this bit about, doing a goal that's a bit kind of maybe out there. None of that includes being a machine, like looking huge or, being trim or whatever. I think those things for me, like, come fairly naturally with the work I do and the food that I eat. So it's kind of what you've said earlier about willpower can only take you so far, and for me, there's a little bit about if I focused in on right, I need to have this many macros at this point, and I think willpower would subside for me, and I'd have a rough weekend with like a wedding weekend or something, and be out of it, and then be like, oh, can I be arsed like trying to do that again? So for me, I just try and enjoy a normal life. And I also recognise that I'm a dad of 3, with a job and family and bills to pay and stuff. So just doing some good stuff like gym work and eating well, and, some of the other healthy well-being stuff I do, the, cold showers and stuff like that. That's all I need really for me. Now, if you're asking about advice for people who want to put muscle on and stuff, I don't doubt that I could put more muscle on if I shoveled more food into my mouth of certain quantities of certain type of macronutrients.
You'd likely have more fat on you.
Yeah.
As a result.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though if it's just protein.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things, because I've told you that I've been trying to gain weight. I'm naturally kind of quite thin, quite, I'm not a big guy. And so I've been really having I was doing like a lot of fasting and not eating that much stuff, and I just couldn't gain that little bit of weight. So I've had a period of kind of really going for it and trying to get all those macros and stuff. But I did notice after a while, although I felt bigger, I didn't feel better. Because there's obviously that response from your liver. And you're putting in that much stuff, and I got some. I was looking into recovery and stuff, and it was on that Andy Allan thing that I sent you.
Yeah, right.
And he was talking about how much carbs to get in after a workout if you wanted to train the next day or whatever. And I ended up coming across. I wanted to find like liquid carbs, so I got maltodextrin, which I don't know if you know what it is.
Yeah. It's a type of sugar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's technically
it's corn.
It's from corn, so it's technically a carbohydrate, but it just is very fast. Shuttles into your muscles or whatever. So like, I was trying that for like after my workouts and stuff, but then I'm like, I'm still undecided. I think pretty probably in general it's not great. But I'm like, well, but I want to train the next day, so I want to get that glycogen back into my muscle stores. And what's your training splits look like in terms of rest days out of interest?
So like maybe I could be so much better off if I actually had a structure, but basically I'm willing to give myself, I need to talk myself out of doing a gym session. So I guess where a lot of people are who fail with like an active lifestyle is they need to work hard to talk themselves into going to the gym, or into doing, come on, like let's drag ourselves to the gym or whatever. I've been doing it for several years in the routine that I've been doing it. I need to talk myself into having a rest day.
Yeah, so
Yeah, exactly.
I really struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, so
With rest days.
and you know, my brother's the same. He's going for 2 million meters on the rower this year. That's his aim, and so he needs to tell himself, no, have a rest. Fortunately, I know how important it is for a rest day, so you kind of cannot kick yourself quite as hard. But yeah, that's what mine looks like. But when we go back to the nutrition and stuff, and like, oh well, how much? Again, I value some stuff so much more than actually getting the food into you, or the types of food into you, and it's stuff like sleep. So I would say, rather than agonizing over how many like nutrients you should get into you of certain quantities, instead make sure you don't have coffee after midday, and you don't have any food after say 6 at night.
2 hours before bed.
And well, no, even earlier. I'd say make sure your digestion process is done by the time you get to sleep, and then drink water-wise or any liquids. Certainly not alcohol.
So you're getting like a natural 12-hour fast then, aren't you, basically, by doing that?
Yeah. It gives you that.
I've been experimenting with that recently.
Yeah.
Because I've been trying to still get it in, but instead, because I used to come home from work, go out for a walk, and make my dinner, sit down, watch the telly or whatever, and then go to bed. So I'd eat about 8 o'clock, go to bed about 9:30, 10. Try and get that 2 hours. But I've recently tried to eat as soon as I get home.
Yeah.
And then go out for a walk, because obviously
And it's to get it done.
Yeah, and well, yeah, just so I'm starting the fasting period quicker, so I don't eat after that.
See, I'm pretty certain from the earlier research that I've done that like any fasting that is less than 18 hours anyway is kind of like neither here nor there in terms of benefits, in terms of like, you know, ketosis, ketosis and stuff like that. So I would personally say that, again, I wouldn't agonize over the 12-hour thing. When I say don't eat after 6 o'clock in the evening, for example, that's nothing to do with your digestive system, apart from get your food digested and then let yourself sleep. So again, if you listen to people like Matthew Walker, the sleep, a really prestigious sleep scientist, he will give advice stuff like don't have coffee after lunchtime, don't eat after 6 o'clock, don't really have any water later on in the evening either, because then you're going to need a wee.
Yeah.
And really, if you are that keen on hydrating, you should have done it earlier in the day anyway.
Yes.
So again, now listen, right? How often do I not snack or eat after 6 o'clock? 20% of the time. I'm no hero here. I just know what you need to do. And if I really want to tune in and get a good night's sleep, if I'm like, I need a good night's sleep, or I've got, say, I'm going to be training for what I'm trying to train for, or I've got a High Rocks event coming up, or I've got a cousin coming around that I need to show off and make sure he knows that I'm fitter than him, then I'll make sure that I'm like not binging late at night, drinking water late at night, having coffee after, say, 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Then I know that's the time to do it. But again, sitting down with my wife on a night time and opening up, having like 70%, 85% chocolate bar of that with a glass of like gin and tonic or something.
Yeah.
That's more important to me than like being some freak of nature in the gym, So
yeah, I think like say like that. Yeah, majority of the time, or 20%. 8% of the time and 20% off is a good approach.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's having the foundational stuff. It's like, if you're not sleeping 7.5 to 8 hours a night, and if you're not, making sure you're getting out and getting some sunlight and spending time with your friends or seeing your family or whatever, like they're the foundational things, aren't they?
Yeah.
Then don't worry about your protein intake. Do that stuff first.
Yeah.
Do the foundation. And then start building the other stuff on top.
Yeah.
Because it's like, people are like obsessed about supplements and stuff like that. But it's like, well, how often you're working out, and
Yeah.
like you got to do that first.
The only supplement, apart from when I've mentioned, the protein if I'm not about to eat after a like hard session, the only thing I've introduced, and it's only been of late, is Brandy's Cis, and it's basically
Electrolytes. I've got as well.
So it's only come to light since I've been interested in high rocks, because it's at least an hour. I mean, if you did it in an hour, then I don't need electrolytes.
Yeah.
But basically, it's like, you're sort of talking half marathon type duration at extremely high intensity, and it's the first time that I've listened to a couple of podcasts and a bit of research myself that I've been like, I need to introduce this, and I barely ever have it. But if I know that I'm about to go into something that's intense, I'll have one of these maybe 90 minutes before, because it helps obviously retain your fluid. Because when I went down for my first High Rocks event, I just chinned loads of water. I was driving down to Manchester,
Dehydrated,
drinking, overhydrated, probably made myself really heavy. Like in the
when you were
process.
diluted all the salts out of your system.
Dilute all your salts out of your system. You need to piss all the time. And so what I did was I listened to a few of the experts, and they're like, no, you don't need to do that. You just need to sip away at some electrolytes, and it'll retain your fluid. You've got all the salts you need, and you can usually get through the workout. It's especially important for people who obviously cramp up a lot and stuff. Like never ever cramp up. So obviously I'm not like a salty sweater or whatever. Yeah. But I've thought that's the one thing that I thought, right, if I really want to improve on my high rocks, if I really want to like smash this attempt at a world record, then I'm gonna have to, make sure that I get my electrolytes in. And like, me and you had, although no disrespect, the workout today wasn't incredibly intense for me compared to when I really do go for it. We still trained for that session. I recorded it at 1 hour 44, which I think after, let's say, our warm up and stuff was at least 1 hour 15.
Yeah.
That's a long time to be sweating.
Yeah.
And my intention is to not have a rest day tomorrow necessarily. Yeah. So, I thought, I'll drop one of my tablets into my water, and so I did.
I had one before I arrived.
There you go.
So I have electrolytes in the morning with creatine. I do not take creatine.
I've never had creatine in my life. Even when I was trying to beast myself, it's like when I was younger.
Talking about now for as a nootropic for brain health.
Right.
Like it can also help with sleep deprivation.
Right.
Because the way it shuttles.
Does it not get protein to the muscle? Is that what it
gets more water into the muscle,
right,
as well? And I don't. Yeah, like I've listened to so many things. And it's like creatine.
Well, okay, but this is the thing, right? We never had creatine supplements when we were cavemen.
True.
So what is it? What is it that makes us need it that much? That's my question. Every time I think about a supplement or diet, I'm like, yeah. If it's that important, where do we get it from? And we get a lot of electrolytes from food, which is why you don't typically need electrolytes, and which is why up until 3 months ago, when I first started buying electrolytes, I pretty much got by fine. It's literally because of these intense high rock sessions and not needing to download the water. Yeah. That I was like, right, okay, it's going to come in handy there. So where's the creatine we used to nail?
It's a good point.
That's what I ask myself every time. And when someone talks to me, again, going back to the vegan sort of thing, question it and say, I think we ate meat. I'm certain we ate meat. All the science suggests it, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So why would I not do that?
Yeah.
And say again, creatine. Yeah, I believe that it would give you like advantages. I'm not after achieving big muscles or anything like that. I just want to be able to do a good job at what I do.
Yeah.
Someone might say you're an idiot for not taking creatine, or you're an idiot for not taking an electrolyte every day if you want to achieve a world record. But I'm just really keen on doing it the way I do it, you know.
Now, listen, mate, I think forgive the pun, but I think it's a refreshing approach. I do I must admit, like I'm big into I'm always I geek out the supplements.
Yeah.
But maybe I should. It's one of them because I think because I feel like I'm really fighting against it to try and get somewhere with gaining a bit of muscle and strength and say, right, what else can I do? What else can I do? And I do really research supplements and and I'd never take anything illegal or ridiculous, steroids or anything like that. So, but no, it's interesting because so many people are just into the supplements and that, and it is part of it. So I think it's refreshing to, before we totally go away from supplements. Are you in a CBD?
I am into, sorry. So okay.
Where's the CBD?
You're about to.
Where's the CBD in UK?
I would never take CBD. No. CBD features daily for me. Yeah.
What form?
So I take. There's a brand I use called High Energetics from the US of A, and basically it's the only. As far as to my knowledge, or certainly at the time that I first investigated, it's the only brand that is water-soluble CBD. So basically what that means is that it gets absorbed, obviously absorption of nutrients is just as key as the amount of nutrients. This is CBD that is highly absorbent in the body.
So basically, if you had an empty stomach, you won't piss it out.
Yeah, exactly. So what the website and the research that I've done on this company suggests is that it's something like 20 times more potent than most CBDs. So, for example, if you have a dropper of CBD, put it under the tongue, typical company, most of that won't be absorbed properly, and it's probably not even a high enough dose, or the quality of it, it might not be organic. You could get all sorts of crap, just with anything. This is organically certified. It's tested in a separate lab. It's an independent lab, should I say, and it's water soluble. So you put it under your tongue, and it's instantly absorbed into your bloodstream. You have to obviously swallow some of it, and gives the benefits that CBD gives.
And what are those you're looking for anti-inflammatory, recovery, relaxation?
So,
do you get anything?
All of the above is why I was interested. It came to my attention because Chris Kresser, the guy who was on the original podcast, who I've continued to follow and continue to believe his approach.
I haven't listened to that episode on Rogan. Yeah. I'll find it and I'll link.
Yeah, I mean, it changed my life. It changed my family's life. But anyway, the CBD, so he pointed me in that direction. So the reason it was very interesting. At the time, we were going through COVID, and me and one of my good friends were really interested in getting some CBD for ourselves. Now, we went through that whole process of CBD is cannabis, and we had to, sort of get through that and then learn more and more and realize that it's nothing to do with the high of cannabis. And it's all to do with the sort of benefits that can come alongside cannabis, but without the high and without, being stored and THC, exactly. So we looked at high, and it was too expensive. We were like, we can't afford to do it. It's like a couple of £100 for, probably like £300 for what you'd say is like a 6-month supply or something. So we bailed away from it, and we did another version of it. Never got any benefits whatsoever at all. Just never felt anything. Both of us were like, nah, not for us. So anyway, we eventually bit the bullet, and we got this high stuff. And when it arrived, at the time, I was the lead on setting up the vaccination centre at down at GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, for the Ulverston Vaccination Centre, and it was, as you can imagine, pretty intensive. You know, like, not only do you feel the stress of setting up a new setup somewhere, but you've got the thing that's like, well, if you fail to do this well, or you delay too much, basically you're not getting vaccines to people, and someone, you know, like, you don't think someone could die because you're delayed by a day, but there's certainly some kind of
real life pressure.
It's real life pressure, exactly. And I didn't realise just how much pressure I had on me. I was working from home at the time, so there's probably additional stresses with being working from home, and, you know, all that shit that was going on. So this CBD arrived, and the all high stuff, and I took what was prescribed for, like, your first go, which is more than what I need to take now, and it's to get your, like, cannabinoid system, to meet the needs of your cannabinoid system, basically. And I remember taking it for the first time, and I took quite a lot of it, and within about a minute, I went back to sit at my little workstation at home, and I still knew everything I needed, all the pressures I had, I was still fully aware of. You know, the stuff like the deadlines I needed to meet. I never felt spaced out whatsoever, but there was something that I just felt like totally the stress was taken out of it. And it was such a good, like, I didn't realise how stressed I'd been before it. And I was like, oh my God. And then the whole process with this is that the more you take, the more your cannabinoid system becomes, the needs of it are met.
You're like loading.
Yeah. So unlike other drugs where, let's say, alcohol, you might need more. This isn't accurate, but let's say, for example, you need more of it to get you pissed because you build up a tolerance. It's kind of the opposite with CBD. You actually, it goes the other way. You meet the needs, and then the needs are much less each time because you sustain a level of it. So what I do, so I have one dropper a day under my tongue every morning. I don't feel anything from it. I don't feel anything. I just know that I'm overall more of a chilled out sort of headspace. I've got the headspace I need. And what was quite, sorry, just mouth's quite dry. Apart from the first time I took it in quite a high dose, and I really realised the difference. The other example that was so clear to me was I went for an interview at my previous workplace, and I was sat outside, and I was like, right, I'm going in for my interview. So I took my CBD, and I'd already had it that morning, but I took like 2 more droppers. And in that interview, I had total clarity of thought. Like, again, not spaced out. I was totally me, but I felt relaxed. There was 5 people in the interview. I felt totally relaxed, and I had clarity of thought. And when questions were coming into me, I could come to them very quickly.
Amazing.
Just like I would hope I would, but
without there's the nerves.
But there's nerves and pressure that you would attribute to, like, going into an interview. And that's the second time that I was like, yeah, totally works. You know, it's so CBD is a thing, and I have experienced positives from it, and as a result, I'm willing to, you know, put in, I guess, you know, a few £100 a year to cover the needs of myself, and you know, my wife started taking it a little bit as well in her coffees. She hates the taste of it, so she has it in her coffees. So, yeah.
Interesting. Surprise, yeah, I do take it as well. I've experimented with some sort of cheaper ones, expensive ones, and I actually settled on the gummies.
Right, okay.
I felt like they seemed to, I guess, I don't know if it's the way that, because it's kind of cooked into it, it just seemed to have better effect.
Yeah.
Similar to you, I don't feel like spaced out or anything. but I felt in general my sleep is less fragile.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like I said,
Yeah.
I stack all these things on top of each.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to have a look at the one that you get. What do you know? What I don't know actually. Like I know that about the cannabinoid receptors within the brain. When you talk about the needs being met as a evolutionary or adaptive side to that. So let's go back. Like, where's that come from?
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree. And I'm not 100% clear on it. I remember at the time, this is just like my brain being a sieve, and at the time that I did the research, I'm happy with what I knew at the time. But I think I remember that we did dabble with that stuff regularly. You know, that we'd smoke it, whatever, eat it. I don't even know, you know, it was part of our lifestyle. Just like I fully, let's not get into this right now. This is for podcasting 2 years' time, back when I feature
magic mushrooms.
Exactly. Magic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms.
Yeah.
You know, it's so clear that was a way of life for us. Why, like, how on earth couldn't it be to give you such an amazing? Not that I do them.
Yeah.
I've never done them. But to give you such an amazing feeling and the powers of them, there's no way that it wasn't a full on feature of like human lifestyle. You know.
Have you heard about the stoned monkey hypothesis?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we ended up being
because the monkey's eating the mushrooms, and then all of a sudden, all the various neurons that wouldn't be connected to, you know, that certain sense started talking to each other and stuff. Yeah, I'm fascinated by it all.
Yes, I mean, I've watched a couple of documentaries recently. Depression related to
relieving symptoms and stuff, and hopefully those treatments will become legal in a few years' time. By the sounds of it,
actually be proven. You know, they look very, very promising.
There's a new Huberman episode all about it just recently. It was really good.
Right.
And like the way that they're talking about it is like it's just a matter of time now before it's legalized. Because there is evidence to suggest, and it's fascinating. They look at set it. So there's various things on these mushroom journeys or psilocybin journeys, trips, whatever. The most important things: setting, darkness. So eye mask and music.
Yeah.
So they've done the experiments and then removed these things. It's not been as effective.
Right.
Even depression.
Right.
So it seems it's like the inwardness.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And they have people talking them through it, and we're talking about the types of music that they play. Apparently, it starts off with like some classical, and then it will move into like sort of like drums and stuff. And it's fascinating because when you think about it as an evolutionary thing or a ancestral thing, you could see that, couldn't you? Like
probably ritual,
like have like a shaman there doing stuff, and then they've got drums going and that. Going through it, so you can see how these things would have happened. So
I think again, it's one of those, like, I don't doubt it was part of it. I think it's just like how you use it in society, and there's no doubt that it needs to be well proven, because it's essentially, what is it, a Class A drug at the moment, or certainly in America.
I think LSD is Class A. I think this might be a B or something.
And it's like it's interesting.
They do like MDMA, ketamine.
Yeah,
they're also looking at this and saying it's like help people and stuff. All this therapy and
like I have huge interest in it's like Sweden that have decriminalized all drugs and stuff, and the benefits, not just from being able to give people access to certain drugs that are probably less what's the word, like destructive to society, but also the fact that there's no gateway anymore. It's like you can actually, like, people can honestly turn up and say, yeah, I'm a junkie, whatever, and I need some clean needles, rather than just like on the street, just all that kind of stuff, and getting actual help. So it's like, we'll give you a needle, but we also want to talk to you about what you're doing, all that kind of stuff, and the crime rates and all sorts, like amazing, really.
I think it's it would be a nice approach to see other countries taking. Definitely. I haven't got a big nasty surprise, don't worry, a big embarrassing one. I know we're running into probably the 3-hour mark, so let's finish talking about parenting, family life.
Okay.
What's it like? How's things with 3?
Yeah. It's the most rewarding thing that I've ever done, like by far. And I'm not just saying that. It's like to settle down on a night time with your little boy or girl, just seeing them develop and learn. I mean, it's just everything that you want to see. Like life is a journey. So you're not after an end point. We've talked. We've talked about the fact that you get the medal and then you're disappointed. So it is totally about focusing on the journey, and you get sad at them getting at certain ages and like reaching milestones. Like, oh, that's the last time they'll ever be in a pram, or the last time they'll ever wear a nappy or whatever. But then they move on to something like greater, and I mean it's incredible. It's interesting because when you first have a child for the first time, your first child, like, it's really hard work, incredibly hard work, so stressful, sleep deprivation and all that. And then when you have 2, or like I've got 3, and say the older ones go to school, and then all of a sudden you're focusing just on one for half a day or a day or whatever it might be. Going from 3 to 1, you're like, it's so easy. Like, how did we ever stress with one child? It's like absolutely a walk in the park with one child. But again, it's just like levels, isn't it? Levels of expectation and demand, and
especially down in your approach in the early days.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, again, I have been incredibly blessed with having the most maternal mother of my children that could be possible. So that means, I get to de-stress. I get to do the gym. I get to come and do a podcast for several hours. And so I get to get away when I need to. But it's so good. It is everything, mate. Really, like to sum it up, like life for me, like if that went away, it would just feel totally empty.
I 100% believe you, and I believe everything you're saying is true.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's a stock answer to of course you're going to say it. Positive, but I 100, I do believe you.
Yeah.
And it does seem from outside looking in that you guys are really happy and everything. So very nice to see, and the same with Phil as well. And do you know what I mean? It's lovely, and I'm proud of you. Do you know what I mean? Like it's beautiful to see, and you seem really happy. So
yeah, it's hard at times, and sometimes you want a little bit more freedom. But I also think I do think about people who say, like, they have children, then move away into a city or something that's totally isolated. I don't know how they do it. People in worse situations than that, but that's an example of where I think, bloody hell, family support is massive. And being able to sort of, and we don't pull on it that much at all, but it's nice to know you can pull on it, and that you can have that support network around you when you need to. It's class, mate. And I know that sounds like one day you want to head down that path.
100%. But it's like it's tough because it is, in one aspect, it's like the number one goal.
Yeah,
it really is. But also I'm kind of like, I don't want to focus on it too much, because you can't just conjure it up.
No.
I can't optimize. There isn't a formula, unfortunately. There isn't a formula. Like, I do these many sets in the gym and you'll gain a girlfriend or but so it's tough. I've whole day in life is tough, and the online thing is a real challenge because it's all pretty much it's all online now. And
would you prefer it to be the olden days?
100%, yeah, it's because, and I think everyone's feeling this is because it's so easy to be comparing people when you've got hundreds of matches there. You're going, you know, she's cute, but then she doesn't have, you know, she's got nicer teeth or whatever, and you're possibly, it's subconscious, but you're doing it, and they'll be doing it to me, because all of a sudden we've got this choice paralysis where there's just So like, you know, a great example, you know, you were probably fortunate to just hit the right time to meet Katie.
I just missed out.
I just missed out
on the swiping, or whatever you call it. I just missed out on it, which, you know, has played out well for me. You know, I
score 100 years ago, or whenever it was. On the most part, we'd lived in small communities, maybe 100 people or whatever.
Yeah.
And in terms of eligible partners, there would be like, what, 3, 4? Oh, is that last down in that village? There's still one, and you know, there's like, you know what I mean? And then you're like, well, she's kind of hot, and the other one's all right, or whatever, and that was about it.
Yeah,
you kind of got matched up, and that was it. And even when we were at school and stuff, you know, there wasn't that many girls.
No,
like there was equal girls to boys or whatever, and whatever. Our year groups were like probably about 100, interestingly enough, or whatever, and there was 2 or 3 girls you fancied maybe, and that was kind of it. Like, you know, there wasn't thousands of people in the radius, which covers, you know, if you do a 25-mile radius where we are in Ulverston, well, it goes up to Blackpool because it's by the crowfly. So it's like, it's never going to work. Yeah. You know, it might.
Yeah.
But penny has to get to Blackpool. But yeah, there's just so much choice. And if you've got things like filters, like, you know, so certain girls might set a filter like, well, I only want 6-foot men. And there's a lot of data coming out actually now where women who, it's a controversial little subject, but obviously with the, rightly so, women getting into the workplace and you know, moving forward and progressing in a more equal society. The other side of that is by the time that women have gone to university, got the master's degree and whatever, got the career, and then when it's time to settle down, right, I've got my, you know, got my career and stuff, and I've got enough money to look after myself, which, by the way, I think is fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you kind of want to be, you don't want to be too reliant on one person because people can end up in shitty situations with that. But the downside of that is you might be 35 and then you go, right, okay, it's time to find a boyfriend, or time to settle down, and then meet someone, and then whatever, and then 2-3 years or whatever, let's think about having kids. Well, this woman's nearly 40.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, like, I can talk from not personal experience, but someone in my family, same sort of thing that's happened is it ends up being kind of too late. And then, you know, it's that ticking clock. And that's, you know, one thing that seems like it's having an effect, because we're getting we're later and later in life, you know, starting to, I mean, I'm now talking about having children, and we can talk about the population collapse oncoming in the next 60 years. That's another discussion for another time. But just peeling back a minute, because I thought I went off on a slight tangent, is there's more and more women now at university than men. So there's more women, less men. And you think, well, that's a good thing or whatever. But no, a woman who's got a master's degree, in general, doesn't want to date down. So a doctor will want to date a doctor. But if you've got a pool of men that's ever decreasing within that sector, then there's less men to choose from, and less men that are that would match up with them. So I think that's an issue. But yeah, it's that's one of the things. But I think that having the apps and all the various filters, and you've got this and that, people are looking for check boxes, and it's then they're trying to whittle down the choice.
I mean, so I've never been on that dating scene.
Yeah,
but I've been on Auto Trader. And I've been on Rightmove, and I've been on Booking.com.
Yeah,
where you start with like this wide. Well, actually, no.
You go really tailored,
almost like very tailored, like high level expectation. For a car, for example, right? Go, and then you just widen and widen and widen until you're like, yeah, that's what I can live with. That's probably about me, actually, really. So there's almost like a disappointment with your selection, and I imagine that them apps are fucking terrible for that feeling.
Yeah,
and then not only that, but you've got this girl or boy who have spruced themselves up for a beautiful 5-6 photos, and they look absolutely fantastic, and then the reality is, well,
so many people don't look like they do.
Yeah, it is, and that's but I'm not. I don't know. Why wouldn't you make yourself look as good as you?
Well, yeah, because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
So everyone else is fighting for. So it's like, well, if she's going to put that filter on, or he's going to put that filter on, or whatever, then you're like, well, everyone kind of needs to do it to keep up with it. Because if you put an unfiltered one or whatever, where you kind of don't look as good as the next person, then you've got things like social media, so Instagram, and everyone's putting, filtered pictures of this is how you should look, and this, then we're getting sort of conditioned in what people should look like, or what beautiful people look like. And I think as well, with the downside with the apps is, touching before, we were talking about how, you'd only have a certain amount of people to choose from or whatever. But usually that person, you would be linked to them in some way, like you knew their family somehow, or, you're mates with a brother or whatever, or something. So you had a connection, or, your friend was
some link to them.
Yeah, and when you meet someone in that fashion, because I obviously have, when I've been at school and stuff, it's so much more powerful.
Yeah.
Because you've got this, like, link. Whereas when you meet someone online, and and even if I've met people from Ulverston or whatever,
you
kind of don't
be like, oh,
don't really have a link.
Talk about the pubs that you might have both been in at some point.
Yeah, there's no like referral. There's branching out to people that are within your network.
Yeah.
Because when someone recommends something, like with Phil and Laura, there was a blind date that was set up, if I remember rightly.
I think you're right, yeah.
And they, even that, it's like straight away you're meeting someone and they've been recommended by someone else. So all of a sudden they've come with like a 5-star TripAdvisor review. Or do you know what I mean? Because someone's recommended them. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Whereas if you meet someone online, it's like, well, who knows? And again, it's not really conscious, but we've talked about this for a long time, but it's not easy. I mean, my approach at the moment actually is to sort of come off them all. I'm still on them, like I leave them running in the background, but I've deleted them off my phone, and I just every now and then I'll uninstall. Uninstall.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I keep checking.
Yeah. You don't want to do the keep checking bit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think not easy. I don't have any advice, unfortunately. So, but
it's not my field of expertise, I'm afraid.
A lady's inquire with it.
Yeah. There's your plug.
Right, we were talking about parenting and kids very quickly. What about like getting kids into sport, and are your kids into sport, and how do you balance that encouragement with sort of acceptance of if they might not be naturally into it?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
So me and Katie take totally the approach of if they aren't interested, don't force it. Alfie, our oldest, who's 10 now, when he was 5-ish, we took him down rugby, not interested. And like having been, always a rugby player and played through the youths as well, I was just like, no problem. Like whatever, if he's not interested, no problem. He then gained an interest after a couple of years, and now he's like loving it, smashing it, and he's doing all sorts of sports. Orienteering, football, rugby, loves it. My other two girls, less into sport. One of them's only 4, so naturally less into sport. The other one, quite likes, gymnastics and stuff, but waiting to get into that field a little bit. But I think what's really important for me is I know that being active is key. So at weekends, putting time aside for going on bikes and exploring, and we will get like mucky and stuff on purpose. We'll get our in winter we'll get out all our waterproof gloves on, get dirty, and it doesn't matter. We're just not bothered about that at all. But I think it's, again, just going back to, I've got a home gym, and there has been conversations that I've had with Katie that's been mainly driven by her. Should we get rid of the home gym so we can use it for other reasons, and then maybe you go back to a gym? And the answer is no. but for not just the reason that, no, I like the home gym. There's a couple of reasons. One of them is it means no travel. I can literally rock up in the gym and then I'm 5 steps away from making breakfast rather than, a 20-minute drive from making breakfast.
I think once you, because I've got a little home set up now, once you do it and you get used to it, it's like, why would I want to add 30 minutes?
Yeah, totally.
Because that's 30 minutes you could have in bed.
Yeah. And
so,
and then the other aspect, which is key for me, is I love it when the girls or Alfie open up the garage door and I'm in the middle of doing something like squatting or the ski erg or a load of whatever it might be. I just think even them not doing it is encourage them to the idea that this is the thing they should be doing.
Yeah, you're leading by example.
Well, exactly, leading by example. And, the girls honestly get so excited about hanging from the bar.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, can we have a hang, Dad?
Yeah.
And I'm like, the one thing that I've said to myself is I will never, it doesn't matter what time of day or night it is, I will never say no to something to do with the gym. So if they're like, can I, whatever, pick up a kettlebell? And obviously I've got like really light ones for the kids. I'll be like, yeah, no problem. And then I'll teach them how to do it. Or, hanging, they love hanging and get excited by that, seeing how long they can hang for and stuff. And so, will they become gymnasts? Will they become CrossFit athletes or anything like that? I don't care, as long as activity is, an active lifestyle is part of their lives eventually, so
awesome.
That's it. That's my view, really.
That's cool. I think I think that's insightful and sounds like a great approach. What about you and Katie? You seem really happy.
Yeah.
You do? Like what's the secret?
We're actually quite opposite in many ways. She gets her social fix from her immediate family, and she has a very big immediate family with lots of cousins and brothers and sisters that got kids and stuff like that. As much as I get my immediate fix from my dad, my mum, my brother, that's about as far as it goes, really. I don't go wider to cousins and aunties and uncles and stuff. So Katie can do that during when she was a pure stay-at-home mum, she could do it during the day. She's now working mornings now, so she can do it in the afternoon. But she appreciates that, apart from, I've mentioned the time in the gym and stuff like that, and activities, she understands that spending time with my friends, which isn't, I don't ask for it all the time, not even every week, you know, but spending time with my friends is my social fix, and it gives me that release and fun and stuff like that. So, you know, she's never said no, but I've also never taken the piss.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I've ever taken the piss, really. Maybe, I mean, I might have come back from like, so my big thing, if I'm really pushing the boat out, is a foreign music festival. So it's that I did that for my stag do. We did it for my brother's stag do, and I've done a couple since as well, I think. And you know, if I came back from one of them and said, "Oh, am I going to an Arctic Monkeys gig? Do you mind in like a month's time?" That's when, you know, I'm pushing it a bit too much. But yeah, just an appreciation for what each other need, really. Yeah, it's quite lucky like that. But yeah, there you go.
Nice one.
I don't want to get too soppy.
All right. So, what's next 5-10 years? What's life going to be like? What are you hoping for at, like, you know, at 40, or is it just more of the same?
So there's a couple of things, I guess. From a fitness and goals perspective, I really hope that I'm in a physical ability to do some stuff, because in my head I've got this idea that when I turn 40, I can enter a over 40s category, which might give me
give you an edge.
Yeah, maybe, you know, like, you know, if an over 40s category is 40s to 50, then maybe that's a good opportunity to give me a bit of an edge there.
Yeah.
So from a physical perspective, that, but God knows, as long as I'm taking over, I guess. And then not really bothered about being, you know, having loads of money. Never really bothered about having loads of money, but I definitely want to make sure that we're well secure in the future. So one of, you know, I've said I'm a jack of all trades. So my latest trade that I'm sort of dabbling with at the moment and finding very interesting is like stocks and shares. Nothing too dodgy, you know, not playing with any money, anything that I couldn't afford or we couldn't afford. But I'm initiating a bit of interest in that, and I think it'd be really good if in sort of 5-10 years I can see a bit of that come back, you know, a bit of a profit made there, just purely so we can enjoy life as a family, and like do some nice holidays, and maybe put a bit of money aside, knowing that in the long term, when it comes to retirement, which I dread, but when it does come to retirement, that you know, there's definitely enough money in the pot, basically, for us all. So, yeah, I guess that's it, really. From a professional perspective, I would like to think that in 5 to 10 years' time, you know, because I don't feel like I'm a career monkey at all. I don't feel like I want to get to the next level, the next level, the next level. But I would like to think that, you know, people can look back at me over the next 5-10 years and be like, he was a really good boss, or leader, and that, you know, I don't know, that I can progress off my own merits, as opposed to, you know, the other ways people can progress in business and stuff, which is, you know, bit less organic, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it, really.
No, I think they're good things to aspire to.
Yeah.
Nice one. Well, listen, mate, thank you. I think we'll bring this one home, and yeah, it's been great, and thanks very much for coming on. We'll put all those links and stuff in. I would normally ask if to link to people's social media and stuff, but I don't suppose you're necessarily fussed about it.
No, I mean, I'm only on LinkedIn, really, and yeah, I'm not bothered about anything like that.
Just living under a rock.
Kind of. Yeah, unless I'm doing something that's quite extravagant, and then I don't mind a bit of attention.
Peek your head out time to time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I went.
mate, loved it.
Nice one.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.